I stood at the kitchen island, watching Marcus arrange the new appliance manuals in perfect rows. 12 years of marriage had taught me his patterns, the way he organized everything, controlled every detail of our life together. Even when I cooked dinner, he'd hover nearby, adjusting the heat or suggesting better knife angles. "They'll be here at 2," he said without looking up. "3 of them. I told them you'd coordinate while they help with the installation." I paused mid-chop through an onion. "You can't handle it alone?" "It's a 2-day job. Complex wiring." His fingers drummed against the granite. "Besides, you're better with people than I am." That was new. In 12 years, Marcus had never admitted I was better at anything. The doorbell chimed exactly at 2. I dried my hands, smoothed my blouse, and followed Marcus to the front door. 3 men stood on our porch, younger than us, maybe early 30s, wearing work clothes that looked too clean. "Emily, meet Devin, Kai, and Bennett," Marcus said. His voice carried something I couldn't place. "Gentlemen, my wife will show you what needs doing." Devin stepped forward first, extending his hand. His grip lingered longer than necessary, thumb brushing across my knuckles. "Pleasure to meet you, Emily," Kai smiled, running a hand through dark hair. "Marcus mentioned you have excellent taste in design." Bennett simply nodded, but his eyes swept over me in a way that made my breath catch. I led them to the kitchen, acutely aware of Marcus following behind. The new stainless steel refrigerator sat in its box, waiting. The dishwasher components spread across the floor. "Heavy lifting first," Devin said, approaching the refrigerator box. "Emily, mind giving us a hand with balance?" I moved to help steady the box as they tilted it upright. Devin's hand found my waist, supposedly for leverage, his palm pressed warm against my hip, fingers splaying wider than necessary. When the box settled into place, he didn't immediately step away. "Thanks," he murmured, close enough that I caught the scent of his cologne. Behind me, Kai laughed at something Bennett said, then reached over to brush a strand of hair from my face. "You had sawdust," he explained, but his touch lingered at my temple. I laughed, but my chest tightened with something between excitement and panic. This felt dangerous. Different. Marcus remained silent in the doorway, watching. The afternoon dissolved into a haze of proximity and pretense. Devin's hands found reasons to guide me around obstacles. Kai's compliments grew bolder, about my laugh, my perfume, the way I moved through the kitchen. Bennett spoke less, but watched more, his gaze following my every gesture. I told myself it was harmless flirtation. Installation work, nothing more. But when Devin asked me to hold the flashlight while he checked connections under the sink, his shoulder pressed against mine in the cramped space. When I shifted away, Kai appeared behind me, steadying me with hands on my shoulders. "Careful," he whispered. "Don't want you getting hurt." The kitchen smelled of sawdust and something electric. Anticipation, maybe, or danger. Marcus had disappeared to his study, claiming he had calls to make, but I caught glimpses of him in the hallway, watching through the partially open door. By 5 o'clock, the pretense crumbled entirely. I was reaching for wine glasses when Bennett stepped behind me, his body caging me against the cabinet. "You're beautiful," he said simply. Devin moved to my right side, Kai to my left. The kitchen suddenly felt very small. "We should stop," I whispered, but I didn't push them away. "Should we?" Devin's fingers traced along my arm. I looked toward the hallway, expecting to see Marcus's disapproving face. Instead, I saw him standing perfectly still in the shadows, watching, waiting. His expression held no anger, no jealousy, something else entirely. Understanding hit me like cold water. He'd planned this, wanted this. The realization should have horrified me. Instead, it set something free inside my chest. I turned back to the 3 men surrounding me. The wine can wait. What happened next belongs to the space between intention and consequence. Hands and whispers and the sound of my own breathing. The kitchen island against my back. The scent of spices mixing with cologne and desire. I betrayed my husband in our own kitchen, surrounded by the smell of dinner preparations and the weight of 12 years of careful control. And I felt more alive than I had in years. When it was over, I smoothed my blouse and poured 4 glasses of wine with steady hands. The men gathered their tools quietly, professionally. Marcus appeared in the doorway as they prepared to leave. "Same time tomorrow?" Devin asked, looking between Marcus and me. Marcus nodded once. "Emily will be here." That night, Marcus and I moved through our evening routine, like actors who'd forgotten their lines. Dinner, dishes, television, all performed in careful silence. I kept waiting for the confrontation, the accusations, the hurt. Instead, he handed me my tea at exactly 9:30, same as always. "Did you enjoy yourself today?" he asked, settling into his chair. The question hung between us, loaded with implications. I studied his face, searching for traces of anger or pain. Found neither. "Yes," I admitted. He nodded slowly. "Good. Good? You've been unhappy, Emily, for a long time." I stared at him. 12 years of marriage, and he'd never said anything like that before. "You noticed?" "I noticed everything about you." He reached into his jacket pocket and withdrew a small plastic card. Hotel key by the look of it. "I've been thinking about what you need, what we both need." The card sat on the coffee table between us like a challenge. "Marcus, what is this?" "Room 412 at the Grandview. Tomorrow night." After they finished the installation, his voice remained perfectly calm, as if discussing grocery lists. "If you want." I picked up the card, feeling its weight. Such a small thing to carry so much possibility. "You want me to... I want you to be happy, to feel alive again." "And you?" For the first time, something flickered across his face. Need, maybe, or hunger. "I want to watch you become who you really are." I turned the card over in my fingers. The plastic felt warm now. "This isn't normal, Marcus. Normal hasn't been working for us." He was right. Normal had been killing us slowly, one controlled day at a time. I slipped the card into my pocket. "What happens after?" "We figure it out as we go." That night, I lay awake listening to Marcus breathe beside me, the card pressed against my hip through my pajama fabric, a small weight carrying enormous implications. For 12 years, I'd been his perfectly controlled wife. Tomorrow, I might become something else entirely. The thought should have terrified me. Instead, I fell asleep smiling. The next morning arrived with unusual clarity. Sunshine through clean windows. Coffee that tasted sharper. Marcus humming while he shaved, something I hadn't heard in years. The men arrived at 9, professional and polite. No lingering glances or unnecessary touches, as if yesterday had been imagined. But I felt their awareness of me like heat from a flame. We worked through the morning, installing the dishwasher. Devin handled the plumbing connections while Kai managed the electrical work. Bennett focused on cabinet adjustments, his movements precise and economical. Normal conversation flowed around us: weather, local restaurants, the complexity of modern appliances. At noon, Marcus appeared with sandwiches and drinks. He'd never done that before, not once in 12 years of home projects. "Thought you might be hungry," he said, setting the tray on the counter. "Thanks, man," Devin said. "Emily's been great help. Really knows her way around a kitchen. She's talented in many ways." Marcus's eyes found mine across the room. "Aren't you, Emily?" Heat crept up my neck. "I do what I can. More than that, I think." Kai's voice carried new weight. Much more. The afternoon stretched differently than the day before. Anticipation threaded through ordinary tasks. When Devin asked me to test the new faucet, his fingers covered mine on the handle. When Kai needed help organizing tools, his body pressed close enough that I felt his heartbeat. Bennett said little but watched everything. At 4 o'clock, Marcus reappeared. "How much longer?" "Another hour," Devin replied. "Maybe 2. Marcus nodded, then pulled a folded paper from his pocket. A restaurant receipt by the look of it. He handed it to me without explanation. I unfolded it, written on the back in Marcus's careful script. "Room 412, 7 p.m., if you're ready." My hands trembled slightly. The men continued working, but I felt their attention shift. "Emily?" Marcus's voice held no pressure, only possibility. I folded the receipt and slipped it into my pocket beside the card. "I'll think about it. Take your time." But time felt suddenly precious, limited. By 6 o'clock, the installation was complete. New appliances hummed efficiently. The kitchen looked transformed, modern, sleek, somehow more alive. The men gathered their tools with practiced efficiency. "Beautiful work," I told them. "Beautiful kitchen," Devin replied. "Beautiful everything." They left through the front door, but I knew this wasn't goodbye. Marcus appeared beside me as their truck pulled away. "Well?" I touched the receipt in my pocket. 7 o'clock was an hour away. Help me choose what to wear, I said. His smile was the first genuine one I'd seen in years. The Grandview Hotel lobby buzzed with evening energy. Business travelers, couples heading to dinner, normal people living normal lives. I stood at the elevator bank, room card trembling in my fingers. The small device felt heavier than it should, weighted with consequences I couldn't fully imagine. Seventh floor, fourth door on the right. My reflection in the elevator mirrors showed a woman I barely recognized. Red dress, careful makeup, eyes bright with something between terror and anticipation. The hallway stretched endlessly. Room 410, 411, 412. I knocked. Devin answered, wearing dark jeans and a white shirt. Behind him, I glimpsed Kai and Bennett, drinks in hand, conversation paused mid sentence. Emily. His smile was warm, unsurprised. We hoped you'd come. I almost didn't. But you did. I stepped inside, and the door clicked shut behind me. The room was larger than I'd expected. 2 beds, a sitting area, city lights beginning to twinkle through floor-to-ceiling windows. Where's Marcus? Kai asked. Home. I set my purse on the dresser with careful precision. This is just me. But even as I said it, I wondered if that was true. Marcus's presence felt woven into this moment, his careful planning and patient orchestration. The evening unfolded like a dream sequence. Conversation that grew more intimate, wine that loosened inhibitions, laughter that felt genuine for the first time in years. When Bennett's hand found mine, I didn't pull away. When Devin's lips brushed my neck, I leaned into the sensation. When Kai whispered that I was beautiful, I believed him. But as the night deepened, reality crept back in. This wasn't sustainable. Whatever Marcus and I had started, it was changing us into people we didn't recognize. I should go, I said finally. Should you? Devin's voice held no pressure, only question. I looked around the room. At these 3 men who'd shown me a version of myself I'd forgotten existed. At the rumpled bedsheets and empty wine glasses. At the life I was building outside the careful boundaries of my marriage. Yes, I said. I should. But I knew I'd be back. The drive home passed in a blur of streetlights and second thoughts. Marcus waited in the living room, reading a book as if this were any ordinary evening. How was dinner? He asked without looking up. Complicated. Now he looked at me. Really looked. Good complicated or bad complicated? I sat beside him on the couch, still wearing the red dress, still carrying the scent of another man's cologne. I don't know yet. He nodded slowly. We'll figure it out. But I was beginning to wonder if some things couldn't be figured out, only endured. 3 weeks later, the arrangement had settled into a routine that felt both natural and impossible. Tuesday and Thursday evenings at the Grandview. Weekends at home with Marcus, pretending normalcy. The small plastic card had become my secret talisman, carried everywhere, a symbol of the double life I'd learned to navigate. But routines have a way of revealing their true cost. I was folding laundry when my phone buzzed. Text from my sister Sarah. Haven't heard from you in weeks. Everything okay? I stared at the message, realizing I couldn't remember the last time I'd called her, or my mother, or any of the friends who used to matter. The woman in the red dress had consumed everything else. That evening, Marcus found me sitting at the kitchen island, staring at the new appliances that had started everything. Second thoughts? He asked. More like 10th and 11th thoughts. He poured himself coffee, movements careful and measured, the same precision that had once felt like love and now felt like calculation. You can stop any time, Emily. You know that. Can I? Can we? What do you mean? I turned to face him fully. When's the last time you touched me, Marcus? Really touched me, not just handed me things or guided me around furniture. He went very still. When's the last time we had a conversation that wasn't about schedules or logistics or my Tuesday night plans? Emily, I think we broke something, not just bent it or stretched it. Actually broke it. The kitchen fell quiet except for the hum of the new refrigerator. All those perfect, efficient appliances, working exactly as designed, unlike us. So, what do we do? Marcus asked finally. I pulled the room card from my pocket and placed it on the counter between us. Such a small thing to have caused such enormous change. I think we stop pretending this is sustainable. Marcus stared at the card for a long moment, When he looked up, I saw something I'd never seen before in his eyes. Fear. Are you leaving me? The question hung in the air like smoke. I don't know, I admitted. Are you the same man I married 12 years ago? Are you the same woman? We looked at each other across the kitchen island, two strangers who shared a mortgage and a history, and a secret that had changed everything. No, I whispered. I'm not. He picked up the card, turning it over in his fingers the same way I had that first night. Then maybe it's time we figured out who we are now. The marriage counselor's office smelled like vanilla candles and good intentions. Dr. Martinez sat across from us, notepad balanced on her knee, expression carefully neutral. When did you first notice the distance between you? She asked. Marcus and I looked at each other. 6 weeks had passed since I'd returned the room card. 6 weeks of careful conversations and sleeping in separate bedrooms and trying to rebuild something from the wreckage. Years ago, I said finally. We just didn't admit it. And the recent arrangement? How do you both feel about that now? I found the restaurant receipt in my purse, the one Marcus had written on that first day. I'd kept it, though I couldn't say why. A reminder, maybe, or evidence. Like we were trying to fix something that was already broken, I said. Marcus nodded slowly. We thought if Emily could be happy, we could be happy. But happiness isn't something you can outsource, Dr. Martinez said gently. It has to come from within the relationship or it doesn't really exist. I folded the receipt and put it away. We know that now. The session ended with homework assignments, communication exercises, date nights, all the tools couples use to rebuild trust and intimacy. Walking to the car afterward, Marcus took my hand, not to guide me or direct me, but just to hold it. Think it'll work? He asked. I don't know, but I'm willing to try. Even after everything. I squeezed his fingers, especially after everything. The drive home was quiet but not empty. We had work ahead of us, hard conversations, difficult admissions, the slow, patient process of learning to love each other again, instead of managing each other. But for the first time in months, maybe years, it felt possible. At home, I made dinner while Marcus set the table. Simple tasks, performed without his usual hovering supervision. When I reached for the salt, he didn't adjust my technique or suggest improvements, progress, in small increments. Emily, he said as we sat down to eat. Yes? I'm sorry for all of it, for letting us get so lost. We both got lost, Marcus. We're both finding our way back. Outside, evening settled over our neighborhood. Normal people in normal houses, living normal lives. Some struggling, some thriving. All of them figuring it out as they went.